My name is Sean Shaler. This is my friend Chris Ford, aka The Objective Geek, and we are here to bring you a very not special episode of Avatar: The Last Podcasters. This one's called The Great Divide. Chris, your thoughts?
You want me to do my whole thoughts on that entire thing in one sentence?
No, just your thoughts on what's coming up in general, I suppose. Your life, your day.
No,
But
I think oh yeah, that's right. Day's going fine. My goal for this episode is to for it to not be past 22 minutes, which is the length of this episode. So to not spend more time than the length of the episode actually is.
usually our minutes of podcast to episode ratio is 2-to-1. We're going for 1-to-1 this time. To be fair, we were both very fair in our ratings. There was no, so I do a lot of things, or I'm about to do and say a lot of things that are really mean. But in the end, we did give it like an honest attempt at rating and everything. So we didn't short it.
I hate hyperbole. Like I'm the person that hates hyperbole the most.
Hyperbole.
Hyperbole. I like to say hyperbole.
You ever listen to? I thought you were making a Brian Regan reference. I'll have you listen to it.
Well, learn something new.
No, I'll have you. I didn't mean to call you out. I thought you were making a Brian Regan joke. That's a great Brian Regan skit. You have to look it up at some point. It's a good one.
Please correct me. So I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, this gets 0 out of 10. This is the suckiest episode ever.
I thought about it, but yeah, that's dishonest. It's not a 0 out of 10. I thought about it, but I couldn't do it. Nope, we do it justice. But on that note, we are gonna speed through it. Because it's not a great episode, and just by coincidence I have a very early morning tomorrow, so this all ties together very nicely of 1-to-1 ratio. That's our goal today. So just to fit in that theme, I do have one piece of news, and that's that we just did an episode or a separate video titled our top 5 favorite Disney movies, where you and myself and my wife all chimed in just with our top 5 Disney movies, just for fun, palate cleanser. It's something we talk about a lot, and we just no science or anything, but it's worth a watch. Go check that out. And my other piece of news and nonsense is that there is no other news. Let's just get this over with.
A little bit of news. By the time this is up,
yeah, that's fine.
By the time this is up, I should have out my Avatar Netflix series fan casting video. I'm working on that right now, so I'm looking forward to getting that out and any responses to it. There's currently not a Avatar casting video on YouTube right now, so I will be the only one.
Will you give us a teaser? One person, one vote, one idea you've had.
Jackie Chan as Uncle Iroh.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna give another one. Morgan Freeman as Boomy. Yeah, I think I've mentioned that before.
We've talked a little bit about that one before, so yeah, that's a good teaser. All right, so Avatar fan cast video for the live action Netflix series. We'll put a link to that. It'll be up when this goes up, so I'll make sure I got the link in the description. So a couple videos to check. Basically, this video is all about directing you to other stuff that we'd rather have you watch. That being said, our synopsis here is that the waterbending scroll, I believe the waterbending scroll came first, and what happens is that's Aang essentially starting out on his journey to become a waterbender, because he actually has to go learn to bend all 4 of these elements. He doesn't just innately have the ability. He has some innate abilities, but that's what that whole episode is about, is that sort of coming to the realization that I have to be taught these. They stumble on a waterbending scroll that was stolen by some pirates. They steal it from the pirates. Then Zuko comes along, messes everything up. Long story short, they escape the pirates and Zuko and have the waterbending scroll. And then we got to Jet, which they're walking through this Earth Kingdom place, and they come to a Fire Nation occupied part of the Earth Kingdom, and they meet this young rebel named Jet. Now Jet's got some good ideals, but essentially he is considering destroying this entire village just because it's a firebending village, even though there are still innocent firebenders in there and young children and other people. And the entire episode is basically the growth of Sokka, or is intended to increase our appreciation for Sokka's instincts, which sometimes work and sometimes don't, but then in that episode they work and he saves an entire village. So where'd he go, Sokka? So not a lot of connections from episode to episode, but that does bring us here where we are still in the Earth Kingdom. I believe we are heading in the direction of Ba Sing Se, if I'm not mistaken, and we come across the largest canyon in the entire world. And that brings us to the first part of the episode.
Yeah, so Sokka and Katara argue about how they want to make their tents, pretty much. One way it's a very professional way, and the other way is just like, nah, I can save this like top flappy thing as a blanket or something. And they just get into an argument that really isn't a big argument.
It's a very
And
silly argument. It's basically, do we use this as a
it
tarp
is
or a blanket?
it's a very silly argument. I'm not gonna lie. Um, then they come across this group of people who want to get across the canyon, and one group hates the other group. One group is like really dirty and kind of scroungy. Another group is really clean and pristine, and they hate each other for some reason. But it's like they just have this hatred that's been going on for the last 100 years, and they'll never get along.
I get them mixed up which is which, but one is the Zhangs, and I think the
Yeah.
Zhangs are the fancy ones, and the Ganjins are the
Yeah,
messy.
the Ganjins. Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. You learned too much about this episode.
I went overboard, above and beyond.
Yeah. And then the canyon guide comes along because you need a canyon guide to get over the canyon. He's an earthbender, and he decides to send everyone over. Appa is sending the sick and the elderly to the other side of the canyon. I actually don't think about Appa. He's just doing stuff by
He
himself.
disappears with the
riding
old
him or
people and the
anything.
sick people, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. So they give the canyon guide, and the canyon guide specifically says you can't have food because it will get like these animal crawly thingies and they'll attack us. So you absolutely can't have food.
It is important to
So
note that these two groups, I think real quick, the one way that they try to make them important is that these are refugees from essentially destroyed, I think, Earth Kingdom villages or Fire Nation. And so they're trying to at least create some sentimental attachment. They're all going to Ba Sing Se, and they have to get across this canyon. So it tries to attach us to them, even though they're very easy to dislike immediately. Okay, sorry for the interjection.
Oh, you're fine. I feel like I'm going really fast.
No, you need to go really fast. You've already hit most of the points.
Yeah, no. I would say the thing about this episode that is kind of glossed over, but this is Aang's first chance to, be the Avatar, do his Avatar role of providing peace and balance, mostly peace in this case, to people. So bringing people together, that's what Avatar's supposed to do, and that's pretty much his goal this entire episode. He manages to have them agree to go to the canyon together.
I've got comments on that, but I think they're better saved for later. I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, one part about this episode that I actually do enjoy, and that's this part right here with the canyon guide. And they're walking down in the canyon, and he's kind of given the tour guide spiel. And it's just a cool story of how he says the natives of this area believe that angry spirits carved it out when proper sacrifices weren't made. And it's just a cool tour guide quip. That's really all. But I do like that part.
And I guess they're making sure they can't be followed.
They build up that wall behind him. The canyon guide builds up the wall behind him.
Oh, okay.
And then the first thing, whatever those things are, what are they called? The canyon crawlers. The first thing pops out right after he lifts his wall,
good.
and then it breaks his arm. So the idea is he traps them, and then a monster appears and breaks his arms. So now he can't earthbend. And just by chance, all these Ganjins and Zhaos are worthless, and not one of them is a bender. None of them. And so, it's grow up and learn how to bend something, people. So that's all that really is he gets them trapped because he builds the wall to keep the Fire Nation away from them, and then right then a monster.
I don't know what the opposite of equalist is, but you must be it because you're
elitist, because there's one that is very much better than the others. No, but come on, couldn't there have been one in either tribe, one earthbender, problem solved, right? But no. Whatever.
I don't know. But I do enjoy Aang's like fight with the crawler. Like he makes a little tornado and kind of whips it up into the cliff hillside. I like that. That was the only action in this episode.
Yeah, because even the second fight later on is not really a fight at all.
It's a pretty bad fight.
It is. So yeah. But anyway, the guy's arms are broken now.
Yeah. Yeah, so he can't bend, and now because of that, are they all stuck?
So they are stuck. They can still go forward. They can't go back. But they can still go forward to a point, even though he can't use his arms, and so it's kind of risky. Long story short, they split up because they're disagreeing. They start blaming each other. Who brought food that made the spider thing come out? And they blame each other, and they split up. So then Sokka goes with one, Katara goes with the other one, and they go along their separate ways. Basically, this is an overnight scene. And then they all sit down to their campfires.
This episode did have a few funny moments. So when Sokka sits down with them, I'll go back to, so Katara goes with the clean people, the Zhangs or whatever they are, and they all pull out food, and she's like, "Oh, you guys have food?" And he's like, "Oh, well, we have food because we knew that the Ganjins would or whoever the other people would bring food because they're disgusting and filthy." And then she eats, and then they start to tell their side of the story on why they hate each other. So a long time ago, one of their leaders got in some altercation with the other leader from the other side, and he stole like this orb, this ball. It was part of like some ceremony that they had, and they never forgave the other side for that.
The redemption ceremony and this orb that now nobody has. So something bad happened in between there because it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and then Sokka, right when they all sit down, all the dirty, rough people like all pull out food, and Sokka's first thing is, "Oh, meat," and he eats the meat. And like Sokka doesn't care about anything else at this point.
Like Katara was considerate. Sokka's just like, "All right, let's do this."
Yeah. And the guy is like sort of confessing to him, but to
the girl is
really
that
care.
lady. Like, it's the heavy.
The lady looks like Roseanne.
Yeah, a little bit.
I can't tell if she was a lady or not.
I think so. I'm not positive, but I think so.
I'm not sure.
It's not important. But she's trying to rationalize their mistakes.
Yeah. So she was like, "Oh, well, see, we brought food because we knew the Gaijin thought we would bring food and they would bring food, so then we brought food."
It's like a circular reference in Excel. It's messy.
Yeah. So essentially, they pack up for the night, and that's pretty much they tell their backstory to each other. And then the next day, Sokka and Katara talks to Aang about it. They just mention it kind of briefly about the atrocities that each side has done to the other. And on the I forget the name. On the dirty people side, they think their head person Jin Wang was wrongfully imprisoned for like stealing the orb or something for stealing the orb. He didn't kill the other guy, but
I think I can sum it up.
He was wrongfully imprisoned for 20 years.
So on one side, they have a guy completing a ritual that involves a sacred orb, and they say that this other guy stole the orb. So then on the other side, they say he didn't steal the orb. The first guy got hurt, and so this guy picked up the orb to return it to the village, and when he did, they threw him in jail because they thought he stole it, and they put him in jail for 20 years. That's the story. And so Aang's trying to be impartial at this point because now Sokka and Katara are being stupid, just believing everything they hear like an idiot on the internet. And so Aang's trying to be very impartial with everybody.
And not only believe it, but like adamantly believe it.
Defend it.
Take their side.
They heard this 10 minutes ago, and it's like Luke Skywalker in the Force when he learns about the Force, and like 10 minutes later in the movie, and he's already defending it. It's that amount of conviction that these kids have for these people they don't know, but whatever. In the midst of this scuffle that starts to break out, and there's a sort of a fight scene.
Aang breaks them up and airbends, and as the airbends, all the food comes. Oh, they get across the canyon, and they say, "Oh yeah, it wasn't that bad, huh?" And then they start to fight, and this fight, it's a terrible fight. There's no like.
They both lose
like
a
it's
little
just one
facial
side
hair.
doing something, and one side doing something. Like they don't ever really come to blows. Like they're not really even fighting. And Aang breaks it up by airbending, and when he airbends, all this food comes out, and Aang is really mad, and he's like, "You both are like idiots, pretty much.
Can't go a day
like,
without a snack."
Food because, and that food attracts more of the canyon crawlers, but the two groups end up working together. They put like little I don't know, they pretty much use them to leave themselves out of the canon. But you know what? That was kind of smart. Like it
It's
reminded me
not
of
very
Honey, I
actiony.
Shrunk the Kids.
And there's also maybe kind of a full circle element there of, hey, we brought the food in the sacks, but the food ended up being bait, and the sacks ended up being a what do you call the thing on the horse, the bit sort of, or a muzzle almost.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
in a weird way,
definitely more of a muzzle.
there's like a nice full circle, but yeah, but that's all the credit I'm giving. There's a moderate amount of nice full circle there. So yeah, we see the more canyon crawlers. And then, we're too far.
Yeah,
probably.
and then they still start arguing with each other even after they beat the crawlers and
They escape the
Aang
canyon.
says,
They're done, and they're still fighting like idiots.
Yeah, they're still fine. And Aang's like, oh, I knew the two people. One was Zhang Wen, and actually they were brothers. Not only were they brothers, but they were 8 years old, and they were actually just playing a game. And pretty much how like the rules of the game pretty much unfolded, and how he fouled him or something, and he was in timeout, and the other person took the ball, something like that, and the game was called Redemption.
My favorite part of that is that when they're like, so it wasn't a magical orb, it was just a magical ball, and Aang's like, nope, just a regular ball.
Just a regular ball. So if it got to a point, so this point in the show, in the episode, I actually like I don't really like the story, but I like the meaning of the story. Is that people have fought for years and years and years, even over religion. And the thing about religion is that no religion, says to be like evil. Like the root of them is every single religion pretty much says to be good, to do good to others, to pretty much believe in a higher power than yourselves. Well, those main religions do, and they have a lot in common. Like so much so, like some of the religions now who are constantly been fighting in the Middle East. I'm saying like Muslims and Jewish people in Israel, and then some Christians and like Muslims. If you actually look at a lot of their history and teachings, like they all really overlap, and they have a lot of the fundamental teachings of them. I mean, even to a point where I think in the Quran they think of Jesus Christ as a prophet. They don't think of him as the Son of God, but they show him as a prophet. Like there's middle ground to find here, but people have fought years and years over these things. And I like in this where it comes to be like, actually, you had no reason to fight because of this and this and this. So at this point in the episode, I like the message. I didn't necessarily like the story, but I like the message.
The core here is that misconceptions escalate. That's what we're getting at here.
Yeah, but that's all ruined at the end there.
All that was good about this totally gone.
Yeah, exactly for me. Aang just says, like Falcontrol says, "Oh, that's really lucky that you knew them." He says it could be luck, or it could be lying. That's like. I should go back and I'm not trying to harp people, but like this episode ends with like a not a good message for kids. Like lying's okay, and then
as long as it stops people from fighting.
Yeah, and then that water bending scroll episode was like stealing's okay if it's from pirates. Like what lessons are these?
Blowing a village up is okay if it's all Fire Nation. There's so many good things to be learned here. So that's the episode, and it's very quick, but there's a lot of it that's just sort of needless verbal conflict or needless dialogue conflict, and that's most of the episode, if we're being honest. So that being said, Chris, let's get to your ratings.
So I gave the story. I'm sorry, I gave the audiovisual a 6.5, and almost gave it lower than that. I mean, there was really nothing spectacular about it at all. But the one saving grace is that I like that they went with a different animation style for those backstories.
Same. I factored that very, very heavily in mine as well.
Like it's almost like that was a precursor to what they did in Legend of Korra when they went with Avatar 1, which that was done so freaking beautifully. I mean, these aren't done that magnificently great.
They're not animated so much as they're sort of stills, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
Like a slideshow almost.
But Yeah, the frame rate is like, I don't know, 10 frames per
Whereas
second.
whereas in one it feels more like a real
Yeah.
animation, I guess. So yeah, it's like the
Uh,
precursor to that.
yeah. So if it wasn't for that, I probably would have gave this episode a 5.5. Aang's bending, I think it was pretty cool, but that was the only thing that
Eh.
visually really happened. And on the story, this would have gotten a little bit higher if they just stuck the landing of the meaning of the story. Because I really like the meaning of the story.
It could have been, and it was
But
100
then
years
Aang
ago. It could have
completely,
worked out. Like it could have been
yeah, like
that. I don't get
I
it.
would have liked it. Actually, I kind of stopped liking it when he said, I liked it when he said, oh, actually, they were brothers. But then once he said there were eight, I was like, the story is not that good. And then once he said he lied, I was like, all right, this is, I just completely throw this out the window now.
Eh.
Um, yeah, so I just gave that a 6 out of 10. On to memorable. Yeah, this deservedly gets 5. This is one episode. It is the thing about this episode that you can put it anywhere in the series up until Toph, and it does not change a single thing for anyone.
Not a spec.
And this is one episode where you can just skip. Like, I watch it just because I'm a completionist. Like, I watch it anyway. But yeah, it's so unmemorable, and the creators know it's so unmemorable that when they did a parody play and Embryonic Players, when they're flying over, they say, "Oh, look, the Great Divide." And it's just like, yeah, whatever, and they just keep flying over it.
I forgot
Like,
about
that's
that.
how
That's
you
great.
watch the series.
I forgot all about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that gets me to 6.1, which I'm sure is my lowest
It
score.
is, and maybe a hair more generous than I thought actually, but that's all right. That's
Honestly, when I rewatched it, I liked it more than I thought I would like it.
I didn't like so precursor to mine. I didn't like it as a whole more than I thought I would, but there were more maybe sort of likable pieces than I remembered, like that I wasn't appreciating. But that being said, I actually did like the audiovisual quite a bit. Even the music, if you listen to music,
Whoa.
there's kind of it's not amazing. I mean, we're still talking a 7, we're talking a C, but there's good music in there in terms of the way it escalates people's tempers and stuff like that. I like seeing the canyon. I like the animation of the backstories. It's all right. So it's a normal audiovisual episode. I hate the story so much from beginning to end. These people are refugees. They're leaving their homes because of war with their whole families and lifelines just on the line. And you're telling me that they would still be this stubborn and stupid and they wouldn't just try to bond together to overcome all the horrors in their life? No, you know what? If you're going to be that big of a jerk, you stay on that side of the canyon. I don't even care. Story sucks, with the exception of just with the exception of that there could almost maybe be a good lesson in there if it was done better. So story fails, it flunks as a 5. Memorable. I don't know if memorable, this is the first episode that makes me question that memorable isn't the right word for whatever this is, because this episode sticks in my head, but I try.
It's memorable.
It is, but I try really hard to forget. So I don't know what the right word is, impact or memorable or just X factor, whatever. But this, I try to forget it because there's, like I said, even those little bitty pieces that I did like. None of them are things that stick. None of it's like clever boomy puns or anything like that. It's literally like the little quip about the spirit guides, kind of the story at the end about knowing their brothers or anything. And I didn't even mind that they were little and it was a game. I liked that sort of played into that. Like I said, conflicts just sort of escalate over time or whatever until Aang ruined it. But other than that, like I tried to forget this episode. So anywhere between like a 2 and a 4. I went with 4 because I have a hard time getting it out of my brain sometimes. And so that knocked it down to a 5.3. So cumulatively, it was a 5.7, which I think is probably more than fair for this episode. Like that is almost a D.
That's pretty fair. That's
Almost
a fair
a D,
grade.
yeah. It's not a D, it's an F, but it's almost a D, so I think that's pretty fair. Just my opinion. But, well, just accumulation of both of our opinions, actually, if you must know. And it's just a rough episode. There's not... I think the creators don't like it. I think most fans don't like it. It's just there. Whatever.
I'm not sure if the creators hate it. I mean, it was a filler episode, and I think they do have some episodes that's just like, all right, let's just do... like this is a decent episode for a normal kids show, but it still deserves the 5.7 rating.
If
But
any other
not
kid
sure the
turns this
creators
on and watches it, I think you
hate it.
get a very wrong perception of sort of the reading level or the audience level of this show. Like this feels like a bad after school
Yeah.
special as opposed to a
The
part
thing
of
is,
a
I'm sure
show
the
that you and
creators
I.
hate certain episodes. The creators might hate certain episodes that you might not think are bad, but they're probably just like, I remember spending several hours animating this one thing. Like
Yeah.
they hated episodes for different reasons.
Right, and they deservedly so. So yeah, this
Yeah.
one to them might just be, well, you had to put it together and we put it on TV and people didn't like it as much, and that's fine. Every TV show has bad episodes. Like you said, if any 10-year-old, 10 to 15 or whatever turns this on without much context, I think you get a bad perception of what the show is about or how the show rolls. But it still is just an ordinary TV episode of a cartoon show, I suppose. Not much else to say here. It's just nobody's favorite episode, I doubt. On the
But
bright
they have
side,
to do it.
yeah.
They're professionals.
Yeah, on the bright side, so the next episode is one that you really like. I really don't like it, but in a sense that I enjoy. I'm going to enjoy the discussion with you. So it's next time's episode will be good.
Good.
Should be a good discussion.
All right, what's our time?
I think we went 25 minutes.
Dang it.
I know, it was close. I'll just cut out some of the crap in there. I'll just cut a chunk out, a 3-minute chunk, and we'll call it a day. It was close.
Okay.
That just shows how
Whatever.
dedicated we are to our craft. We didn't like this episode. We're like, you know what, we're still just going to do it and get through it, and we did. So good for us. We know that was a short one, but it's because we really want you to go watch Chris's take on fan casting and in our top 5 Disneys. If you need a little bit of a palate cleanser, we'd much rather you go spend your time on those. So that's why this one's really short, and because we don't like this episode. So thanks for joining. Thanks, Chris, for calling over. Next episode will be more interesting, I promise.
Yes.